Okay, this is Bernita Reed. I'm here in San Antonio, and I am, I need to start over here. So, this is Bernita Reed. I'm here in San Antonio. We're at St. Paul's United Methodist Church, and I'm here with Doris Callies Dunlap, and I wanted to start with her introducing herself. It is April the 6th, 2018.
Hi, my name is Doris Callies Dunlap. I am the oldest daughter of the Reverend R.A. Callies Sr. My mother's name is Eunice E. Callies. And I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. I am a retired physical education teacher of 29 years. I am from San Antonio, Texas.
When were you born?
I was born October 19, 1960.
And tell me how far back you go with your ancestry. Who were your parents?
My parents was Reverend R.A. Callies Sr., who is, and my mother's name, of course, again, is Eunice E. Callies, and my father is the man who started the first Martin Luther King March here in San Antonio, Texas, which, of course, is known to be the largest march in the United States. On April 10th, April 6th, 2 days after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, my father, Reverend R.A. Callies, wanted to keep Dr. King's legacy alive. And that was after the assassination in Memphis, Tennessee. And he wanted to keep Dr. King's legacy alive. So he started the first Martin Luther King March, along with 7 other marchers from his Youth Leadership Conference for Community Progress. They started at Lincoln Park, and they marched down a 2-way Commerce Street, using only 1 lane, to Hemisphere Park, which, of course, was also the opening day of the Hemisphere. Also, that was the first Martin Luther King, well, at the Hemisphere was where they held the first Martin Luther King ceremony.
What was going on in the city at that time? Did he tell you how people had reacted to the death?
Yes, there was some rioting, actually. And, of course, that day, Lyndon Baines Johnson's wife, President Lyndon Baines Johnson's wife, was due at the Hemisphere that day for opening night, and there were lots of security for her that day. But, of course, the marchers didn't have a problem at all. Because the assassination was on the 4th, okay. Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to check, did your father say how he heard about MLK's assassination? Did he say where he was when that happened?
No, he didn't say where he was when it happened, but he definitely heard about it. My parents, my father and my mom, they went to school in Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, to college, actually in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and which is actually where they met. And after the graduation, my father went into the military, and my mom lived in West Memphis. And of course, and that was during the civil rights movement. And then after my father had done 2 years in the military, he started working for West Memphis School District, driving a bus. And my mom was teaching school in West Memphis, in the elementary school, I believe it was. Well, there were lots of racism existing, of course, in West Memphis. And my father's driving a school bus down the street, and some Anglo people came along and ran him off the road. And then the school board blamed my father. They were Anglo, and they fired him. So San Antonio Independent School District had offered him a position. So that's when Mom and Dad came to San Antonio.
What year was that?
If I remember correctly, I think it was 1957.
Can we back up a bit and start with, when was your father born and where?
My father was born in El Campo, Texas. I think it's 1929. And my mom was born in Arkansas, and she was born in 1931.
Do you know where in Arkansas?
Arkadelphia. I'm sorry, Curtis, Arkansas.
And who were their parents?
Cleo Middleton
For
was
your
my
mother?
mother's my mother's father, and Hazel Middleton was my mother's mother.
And they were in that same city?
No, they were. Oh, yes, they were definitely yes.
What did you say it was again?
Curtis, Arkansas.
Curtis. Do you know what county that's in? That's okay. I was just curious whether it was close to Arkadelphia. Or
Yes, close to Arkadelphia.
It is? Okay.
Yes, actually, it's 5 miles from Arkadelphia.
Okay.
Yeah, and they at that time there was segregation, so they had to go to Pine Bluff State College because that's where the college was for African Americans, Negroes at the time, what they called it.
Did she talk at all about her early life in that town? Since it was a small town?
Well, I just remember, they didn't have electricity, and they used, lamps, and sometimes she would tell me about the snowbirds that her father would kill and cook, and they would eat them. And he had lots of farmland, especially after the Emancipation Proclamation, and the slaves were given land, and so my grandfather had lots of land. So they farmed and grew their crops on the land, peas, corn, okra, but did a lot of that.
Now,
Billet wood. My grandfather also got a job cutting down the billet woods, what you call it, trees, and he would sell the lumber.
did they own their land or was it shared property?
They owned their land.
Do you know what happened to that property?
Yes, they ended up having to sell because my grandmother got real sick. She passed away of cancer. And then my grandfather did too, but I can't remember what he passed away from. Oh, cancer too, actually. But I remember that they did sell the land. But some of his siblings also inherited. They sold some of the land, and then some his brothers had inherited.
And this was the Middletons?
Yes.
Middleton.
Mhm.
Do you know when they were born or about when
And
when they died?
Okay, let's see. My grandmother died, my sister, she died in 1980. Was the graduation? My sister graduated in, not 80. She died in 1980.
About how old was she?
Let me see. I would take a guess and say about 80, probably. I don't know. I do the math.
That's good.
75, something like that.
And how about your grandfather? When did he? When
He
was
died
born?
about 5 years later. Hmm.
And he was born about the turn of the century, the
Yes,
1900 also.
yes. And one thing that happened to my grandmother when she was in the hospital, she had gold teeth, and somebody just took out all her gold in her. Yes.
Where did
So
she
there was
die?
still some. Right. She died in the hospital in Little Rock. Yeah, there's still some things.
Now, did you know your grandparents?
Oh, yes, very well.
What
Yes,
do
we
you-
would go every Christmas and every summer. Every Christmas and every summer, and we look forward to it.
What are your favorite memories of
Of my grandparents, I would have to say just being together as a family and walking down the dirt roads to the property where, they would make us pick peas. And then my grandfather, once we got a bushel, and he would take it to town and sell it for about like $7 a bushel. And then after that, we would have to come back and shuck peas, and one of the ones that he didn't sell. And then, but just being together as a family, and then also going to church. Church was just something we looked forward to. We just really loved that.
What
Yeah.
was the name of the church?
The name of the church
Or what denomination?
was Church of God in Christ.
I'm curious, walking down the dirt road. Now, tell me why that was so much fun and such a memory.
Okay. It was peaceful. And it would just be us and our cousins, and we had so much fun. And it was just something kind of historical to us. It was just, I don't know. And then we would cross the highway onto the other land on the, it's the old, well, we crossed the highway, and then we crossed the old highway. And then, and then my aunt lived on the property too, in a little house. And it was pretty much open. Actually, it was a trailer house, now that I think about it. Real nice, and more cousins, and, it was just, we just loved it.
Were you barefoot?
No, no, but my father told us that he didn't get his first pair of shoes until he was 13 years old. Now, they were very poor, very poor. But he was barefooted till he was 13.
How many acres of land did they own?
I'm gonna say around maybe 6. It was huge. And also, the property of my grandmother's house is pretty big too, because they had the lake behind her house and chickens, pigs, barn, outhouse. Not outhouse. What do they call it when they keep potatoes in the? What's that kind of house called? Yeah, something like that.
Now, tell me about your father's side, the Callies, and how far back you go with them.
Okay, let's see. Well, my father was born and raised in El Campo, Texas, and eventually they moved to San Antonio. I think when he was, if I remember correctly, I think it was about 12, I think, when he moved to San Antonio, something like that. But he lived with his sister. There were 13 kids. So his sister raised him. And her name was, we called her Big Sister. Yeah. And she lived with him until one of his teachers at, I it was Brackenridge High School. Notice how he was very intelligent, very smart. So he took him to, his name was Reverend Walker. And he took Daddy to Arkansas, because that's where he was going to be one of the college professors. So he took Dad up to Arkansas and Pine Bluff State College. So as far as my dad's mother,
Just what you remember. If not, it's okay.
okay, other than she has 13 children, she had 13 kids, and
Do you remember her name? What was her name?
her name was Leela Thomas. And let's see, and then let's see so Daddy started his first church. He organized. He started at a church called, Mount Zion First Baptist, but when he was called to preach, because we used to go to Corinth first, and then we started at Mount Zion First Baptist, where we joined.
Where is
And
that?
It's on Hackberry Street, and right up the street from the church, actually. And so we were there. Mom worked at the daycare, and we were there until I was around 7 or 8 years old, and then Dad started his own church. And so then his mother came on to the church, and I think she was a member of Mount Zion First Baptist too, but she came over to the church, to Christian Fellowship. And, and so we would have church together, their Christian Fellowship, until, unfortunately, my dad wanted some of the other members to be in position, like trustees and deacons, and the family didn't want them to. So, and my dad did. So then, they took Daddy to court. And that was, I was in high school, so ninth grade, 74. And the judge was very disappointed in what was in his courtroom. He said he was, and Dad won like that. And of course, the next Sunday, because Daddy built a church. He built our house, then he built a church right next to the house.
What is the name of this church again?
Christian Fellowship Baptist Church. And so, we just walk out of the house, and there's a church right there, okay? Right there. And actually, he also bought the property, too. But anyway, and so the next Sunday, they were standing on the door, steps, daring my dad to go in the church. So Daddy just said, he told my mom, he's just going to turn in his resignation. He's just going to start over. So he did. Excuse me. And so he built another church on Rice Road, and called First Gethsemane Baptist Church. See, and then they found another house across the street from the church. And of course that property used to have slaves on it, because it has a well on it, and the owner of the property, the lady next door actually, who used to own that property, because they had sold their property to somebody else who Dad bought the property from.
Do you know the name of the owner? Hurd, Mr. and Mrs. Hurd. Do you know anything about the slaves that were on it?
She just said she used to play with them. The lady that lived next door when Dad first bought the property, she used to play with them. That's what she said. And she was about 89, I think, something like that. So eventually she ended up in a nursing home. But, yeah.
This is in the city of San Antonio?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. I actually asked Will Hurd if he was related to Mrs. and Mrs. Hurd. I asked him that a couple months ago. He said no. He says he knows about him, but he doesn't, then he's not related to him.
The Hurds were Caucasian,
Yes.
white?
Mm-hmm.
And Will Hurd is a Caucasian person?
No, he's mixed. but black, really, but you know, it's dominant.
You're wondering if he might be a slave ancestor?
Yes,
There were
I
slaves that were on the property?
yes. Now, my grandmother, my dad's mother, people were definitely slaves because I have some property. You know, during back then with deeds, they wrote their deeds, and I have that. And
What does it say?
it was an inheritance. Who the deeds, who the property to go to? Dad. Oh, okay, dad's father. Yeah, dad's father. Was his Callies too? I mean, Callies, which one was it? But, and then,
You're trying to think of his first name? The count?
my grandfather, I mean, my
Your
great
grandfather.
grandfather, I didn't even know him other than just of him.
Okay, that can be looked up. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
he's a reverend too, though.
So tell me what you know of this history from slavery. You said there's a deed?
Yes.
Okay, tell
Where he
me.
wrote it, and I called about it because I wasn't clear, and that's when they explained it to me that they used ink, certain kind of ink, and he wrote the deed out for the property. You know, I could bring it back. Actually, it's right there. Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, that's be special. But you're saying that the owner of your ancestor actually deeded land to him after emancipation?
Yes,
Or
yes.
before? Okay.
No,
Was
after.
he freed? Okay.
Yes, and he had inherited this land, and then he wrote out the deed to for the land to be. He deeded it to. Actually, I think he deeded to my father because I remember telling my mom that Dad has property in El Campo,
Now,
but I have to because they had the same name. I have to double check, but I can bring it back. It's no problem.
okay. Now, your father was born when?
1929.
And his father would be who?
Reverend. His name's Reverend Callies too.
He was also a minister.
Yes.
And they lived in, this land is in that same,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
What did you say, El Campo?
El Campo. And see, and then I know my grandmother. Oh, I would have to find that picture. I know her aunt. We used to have a picture of her aunt. She was a slave. But I don't. I'll have to look for that one. But I do know that I have those deeds. And matter of fact, I just picked them up about 2-3 days ago. I just picked them up. Oh.
That's so special. Do you know how much land it was?
No, it was a lot.
And
It's on
did
there.
you hear any stories of them working that land? Or any stories from?
Yes. Oh,
Tell
let me
me
see.
about it.
Wait, I was. Let's see. Oh no, I'm getting that mixed up with another man that was telling me his grandfather was sold in a cow. Dad didn't talk about that too much. You know, he was pretty much an activist. So, let's see. And Mom didn't talk about it either too much.
We'll
I
get
guess
to that later.
they-
It can be researched, but let's get to your father's early life. Did he tell you much about what he experienced growing up? What led him to be an activist? Is there anything that stands out?
Well, I know he was in West Memphis during the Civil Rights Movement, and he just did not, doing segregation, and he just thought that was just wrong. And I don't know. I think he might have met Dr. Martin Luther King. The reason why I say that because he and Coretta Scott King stayed in touch, which I brought some documents to show you that. And I just know that time when he was fired from the school district, he was telling me that when he was in the board meeting, that the superintendent called him Bobo. And, you know, he had some things to say back to him for calling him Bobo. And then the school district told him, you're no longer allowed to come within the school district. So when they, you know, was telling you that he got a job down here. So as soon as he got on here, he saw how terrible the east side was and how they were neglected, and there was just so many things that needed improvement. And a lot of it was due even here to segregation. And he just started activating for east side improvements, drainages, sidewalks, you know, our facilities. You know, our kids are walking to school without sidewalks, you know, bridges. He got all these things. Martin Luther King, on Martin Luther King Street, at the time it was called Nebraska, you couldn't even get around. You couldn't even get to W.W. White Road. You had to go around. And like Rice Road. And Salado Creek was on Rice Road too. Now, if the creek flooded, you had to go all the way to Rixby. And many times that kept the students from even getting to school on time. And then Rixby is a very busy street. There was a creek, Salado Creek crossed, went all the way down, went past, it crossed Martin Luther King, which was Nebraska at the time, okay? So Dad went to the city, you know, to ask for a bridge. So students can get across, EMS can get across, have the freedom to get across to the other side. And the city council, the city told them they don't have funds for a bridge. So, and Dad at the time was a teacher at Martin Luther King Middle School, which was called Raleigh then. And he was also the PTA president. So, and you know, he even would discuss it with the PTA about a bridge, over Salado Creek, okay? And so city council said they didn't have money. So Dad started asking the owners for the property. And, you know, he was telling them, he told them the reason he wanted the property. They wouldn't give it to him at first. And he just kept asking them for it. So finally they gave it to him. And then Dad allowed the city to build a bridge over Salado Creek, and which they did. And then the Mayor Lala Cockerill, allowed Dad to name the bridge, okay? Dad named the bridge, and Dad asked if he could name it, and he said yes. Because he had a bridge built on Rice Road already too, but first it was a small bridge. The creek would still come up, and then they finally built a bigger bridge, which Dad helped build that bridge too. But of course, at that time, the city council lady named the bridge Eugene Nance, and no one knew who Eugene Nance was. So this time after Dad had the bridge built on Martin Luther King, he asked to name the bridge. They named the bridge, Dad named it Freedom Bridge, which meant the freedom to get across to the other side without catastrophe, the freedom to get to school, the freedom to get on the other side, the freedom for EMS to get to the other side for emergency reason, allows you the freedom to cross. Okay? And he stayed with that bridge until it was safe, because when they first built it, just built it and put in rails, and then Dad was, no, we need rails, low rails, no, we need higher rails. And so, and that was in 1980, they had a ceremony, and well, it was in 80 when it was completed. He had been trying to get this bridge since 1972. And, well, no, he actually introduced the bridge idea in 68, which was the same year he found the march. Well, and he also had given jobs to the youth, because he was still activating for east side improvements. He gave jobs to the kids, city jobs. And it was their first time. He would pick them up. He would have his students, because he was an industrial arts teacher at Martin Luther King Middle School, which he got changed. It was called Raleigh, but he got it changed to Martin Luther King Middle School. With the students' input, too, they voted, too. And the district changed it to Martin Luther King. He would have the students to meet him at the corner of the street, and he would pick them up in his truck. And then he would take them to like the cemeteries, the clean cemeteries, the long bridges, libraries, and like the girls worked in the libraries, city libraries. The boys worked in the community. So, and I have some pictures to him. And then he would take them back, and they would, and those kids would be right there at the corner street waiting to go to work. He gave them jobs because he noticed, idle mind could be a devil's workshop. And then the students, they wanted to work. They wanted to make money. They wanted to be hanging out and getting into trouble. And they were at the time, if you were black, they will lock you up in a minute. And Dad was keeping a count on how many black men were being incarcerated. And he was even writing the governor about that. It's too many. And so they, went ahead, they completed the bridge. Okay, so in 1997, a city council lady named Dr. Lott wanted to honor Dad for everything he's done for the city. I mean, he's done any Martin Luther King honors, he did it. Okay, but there's so many East Side improvements that he's done from his heart, and Christianity, so they put his name over the Freedom Bridge. I have pictures too. And they put his name over it, and so it read, R.A. Callies Sr. Freedom Bridge. And they had a ceremony, and the community was in high support of it, and it was so beautiful. Then, 7 months later, got another councilman in office. Of course, his name was Mario Salas. He took Dad's name off the bridge, and put Martin Luther King's name up over. So now it reads Martin Luther King Junior Freedom Bridge. Martin Luther King Bridge is right there on New Brownsville Street. That's Martin Luther King Bridge because Dad was the one that asked the city to name that bridge Martin Luther King Bridge in 1986. That's the Martin Luther King Bridge. But this councilman took Dad's name off. Dad had begged him not to take his name off. We went to court, went to the city council and begged them not to take his name down, take it down anyway. Dad saw his name being taken down on the news. A couple hours later, he had a stroke. And throughout the years, he continued to have strokes. Then he died. So, of course, right now we're trying to get his name back on there. But so that was, that day, that was after he saw his name being taken down. That was the last time that he did anything, of course, because, so.
Now, when you say he built the bridge, he was the person motivating it.
Exactly, yes. And he would actually, when he gave the students jobs, they would clean around the bridge, and then he would water along the bridge because he wanted the landscaping to be really nice. And he would water along the bridge. Sometimes he'll come home 8 o'clock from water alongside the bridge, But yes, he designed it. He designed the bridge. Yeah, he drew up the blueprints. And then he even designed the sign. At first, they didn't give him the sign he designed, but then he kept going back and forth to the city council. So they gave it to him. And
what was his training? What was his...
industrial art and agriculture.
And did he teach?
Yes, he taught at Raleigh Middle School. He taught woodshop, industrial art. And, of course, he taught math and history, especially history. Yeah, he was a history major, too. Yes. So, as a matter of fact, he wrote a letter to Coretta Scott King and asked her for a copy of the I Have a Dream speech, and she sent it to him. I have it. And she sent it to him. And, yeah, and he kept Martin Luther King's legacy alive, which is why he started the march, actually. He wanted to keep Martin Luther King's movement alive, is where he started marching, yeah.
What
So,
did they do on that first march? You said there were 8 people?
yes, there were 8 people. There was one family. They were Reverend Sister Duncan and their children. And then there was another man that called, it was a disabled gentleman. And it was, so it was Dad, the disabled gentleman, and Reverend Sister Duncan and their 3 daughters and their son.
Yeah, and that was pretty much just a walk.
Yes, they walked down a 1-lane to, they used 1 lane. They walked down a 2-way Commerce Street.
Did they have a sign?
He didn't mention that, but I'm knowing that, yes.
And the next year, do you
Yeah, and
know
it
what happened the next year in organizing and then what?
He continued every year marching, every year. He did other marches too, but he always, and then he also started the wreath laying ceremonies at the plaza where the Martin Luther King statue is, because he found that too. He found the Martin Luther King statue and the Martin Luther King Plaza, and of course the bridge at the time. And he's continued to march, and he continued to hold ceremonies, and the march continued to grow, and there were different people that he had on program. During the unveiling of the Martin Luther King statue, the march grew to about 5,000 people, because before during the march it would be maybe 20, maybe next year maybe 40. Yeah. And so it really grew then.
Doris, if you don't mind, Evelyn's been taking really good notes. And
Okay.
I think she has a bunch of questions, and her being familiar with this story, I'm going to let her sit here and take over, if that's okay.
Yes.
All right.
I'm holding my hand,
She
so I won't be moving.
She knows more about this story, so.
Yeah.
Excellent question, and I'm learning a lot more too. I just want you to
Thank you.
expand on what you're saying already. This is great. Do you know the years of some of these founding times that you started with? For instance, the first year of the first march. What was that year?
1968,
That's what I thought I heard.
April 6, 1968,
April 6, 19.
which is the anniversary today, 50 years.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And then what came next? The wreath laying of the statue?
Well, actually, the wreath land started that day too, and the first wreath land was at the Hemisphere Park.
So in 1968, the
Yes.
wreath laying started.
Yes.
When was the statue actually?
1982, and that was when the unveiling was completed. That started on it in 1975, and he received donations, asked for donations from schools, which they did, donate, stores like H-E-B, Red McComb, and then statue was 24,000. So they had raised up to 14,000 in donations. They needed 10 more thousand, and then that's when the kids solicited. He would take his students, neighborhood kids, to different corners, which was approved by the city, and they solicited for donations till it finally reached $10,000. And the city of San Antonio would give, which is why, some people think things were just for the east side. No, he did it for the whole city and state actually, but they all contributed, because we would solicit on the west side, the north side of town, the east side of town, south side of town. He would take us too. So, so the whole city, was part of, the Martin Luther King statue effort.
Can you tell us who actually was the artist for the statue?
Dr. Torres. His first name, but it's Dr. Torres, Torres.
And is this located in the plaza of Martin Luther King?
The statue?
Mhm.
Yes,
Can you tell us the address? of where that's located?
It's on East Houston Street. The exact address would be, and it's called the Plaza. Okay, it's right, I have that written down too.
That's okay. That's right. That gives us an area in San Antonio.
Yes, it's right in the middle of it's right in the middle, it's like when you come out of Fort Sam, you go across the Martin Luther King Bridge, you go down about a couple of blocks and you're gonna see the Martin Luther King statue right there.
With all of these
East Houston of Brownsville Street.
That's
I'm sorry.
beautiful. I'm sorry. With all these accolades, these wonderful things that your dad has done, are there any? You spoke of his name being taken off the bridge.
Yes.
Are there any other plaques or recognitions that we can go back in history and see his name showing that he was part of that venture? The statue, the Lane of the Wreath, has the family or anyone in the city, the council, anyone put any plaques to remember him other than that one area?
No. And and that's what we've been activating for. That's what we've been fighting for to get. There's nothing. Reverend Callies has nothing showing. Nothing showing. I mean, if you go to the Martin Luther King Plaza, Dad had a plaque in the ground, but the city has done nothing. Dad's name is not on anything in the city at all. It was on the bridge. They took it down. We've been trying to get it up there. Matter of fact, the councilman called me in about a month ago because I've been speaking with him about putting Dad's name back up on the bridge. Also, the Baptist Ministers Union has been supporting that too, and trying to get it back up there. So they called me in. Well, will you accept a little street? No, we will not accept a little street. Well, we feel that we're going to get a lot of flack if we move. They said they feel like they're going to get a lot of flack if they remove Martin Luther King's name from the bridge. I said, well, we have a Martin Luther King bridge already, and that's not a Martin Luther King bridge. That freedom did not mean Martin Luther King. That was an R.A. Callies Freedom Bridge. It had nothing to do with Martin Luther King. It's on Martin Luther King Drive, but it had nothing to do with Martin Luther King. We have a Martin Luther King. We have 8 honors of Martin Luther King: the plaza, the street, the school. So you can't put Dad's name on one thing, and he's done more for this city than anyone. Oh no! And it was wrongly taken down. So I told them, no, we're not. And they're afraid that they're going to get flack. So then once again, it's political? Oh.
Can you tell us, I understand, he has done a lot, and we appreciate everything that Reverend Callies has done.
Thanks for asking that question.
Definitely. Can you tell us a little bit more about the growth of the march? That your dad started with 8 people, from my understanding.
Yes.
And so now this is 2018. What would be the numbers of how it's grown? And since it is the largest in the nation, what would be the approximate number?
Well, I know this year they said it was 300,000. It had grown to 300,000. Of course, I don't know if you know that in 1986, after the Martin Luther King March, that's when the city took it from my father. My father didn't give it up. Anything. Literally took it. So, I just got through to the city, I'm going to say within the last 2 years, Reverend Callies started to march. At first, they wanted to say, oh, it was the city started to march, and March started in 1986 or 87. March started in 1968, but they took it. And now I don't know if you noticed this year, now they have little things. One night, well, Reverend Callies started march. He's the founder of the march, and they're going back to giving him credit for something that he deserves because he was the one who started it instead of just taking it, And when he took it, he told my mom about it. I remember when he said it because I was in the kitchen. And he said that they took the march from him and there was nothing he could do about it. He wanted to. He didn't want them to, all of that. He was very hurt, very, very hurt. You know, so
So what are some of the things that have come from the march, other things that San Antonio has added to? Because I understand there is something called a commission. Can you speak a little bit
well,
about
yeah, they
that?
took it and started a commission.
Okay. So is there anything that is in writing that now that's being added to the history that we can now put in, that the commission is adding to that?
Is there something in writing that they, how they took it?
No, as far as where your father's, you know, how he began and since.
Oh, there's
since you
history
said
of
now
how
there
my
are some-
father, yes.
Okay, because I understand the commission now gives scholarships, and what are some of the other things that have spawned from this Martin Luther King March?
See, that's the thing about it. When they stole it, when they took it from Dad, they did everything Dad had started. Every single thing they did, they copied. They took from Reverend Callies. Reverend Callies was the one that really started the scholarships.
Okay.
You see, he started the scholarships. He started the, and you know what? He started the scholarships. He selling bumper stickers. Yeah, and actually, this scholarships actually first started at Martin Luther King Middle School because that's where the funds, the Martin Luther King scholarship fund was, right there at the school. Because I was reading his letter, and he asked the city if he could start, you know, for scholarships for Martin Luther King, which they approved. And then later, the Baptist Ministers Union came in and started helping with scholarships. So then when the city took the march from Dad, they took the scholarships too. You name it, they took it. The bridge, the only reason why the bridge, the bridge on Brownsville Street, the reason why there's no sign that says Martin Luther King, it just has freedom under the little hands, was because when Dad asked the city if we can name that bridge Martin Luther King, they approved, which I have in there. When the commission took over, they took that too. And so they put their sign, which is unlike, because the sign, like the Martin Luther King, the other sign that says Martin Luther King Freedom Bridge on the Brownsville, on Martin Luther King. Well, when the councilman redid, he did the exact same design Dad had, the blue and white, and this is more his style. Well, notice the one on the Brownsville Street is different because the city took everything from Daddy. So Dad had already asked for that to be the name of the bridge, but then when they took it, they took over. So that's when they put their sign up there. So,
Are there any other, Doris, that you can tell us of things that your dad has done that we may not be aware of?
okay. Okay, let's see. All right, let's see. I did mention he gave jobs to students, to the kids, to the neighborhood students, actually our kids. And he did try to get a stadium east side, went back and forth trying to get a stadium, because, you know, he was saying, well, what east side students had to go so far to the stadium, and, you know. So, okay, that's one thing. And, okay, just tell you, he built 2 churches, and a lot of the kids would come to church, actually, joining, you know, and then he gave opportunities, like the students would sing, pray, even if the offering, I mean, just give them a chance to work for the Lord, you know. And let's see, okay, so there's the Martin Luther King statue, we know about that, the street, the school. Okay, there were 2 bridges, actually, there were more bridges, there was another one, but I can't remember the name of that bridge. Okay, because some things I had to read about to keep up with Daddy. And let's see. Okay, now, so some people don't know that San Antonio contributed to the Martin Luther King statue fund. They think the kids were the only ones, and the kids were not the only ones. I mean, there were schools, different schools that did make big contributions, you know. And so, and a lot of people don't know that. And also that, you know, he was always in contact with the White House. The White House was in contact with him. They didn't know that. They didn't know that he was in contact with Coretta Scott King. They didn't know that. And a lot of people, some people actually, okay, they didn't know the city had taken the march. So some people thought Daddy was still leading the march. Didn't know that. And some people thought Dad gave it away. Dad would never give it away. No, oh, he used to actually get a lot of kids out of incarceration. Students out of, or not just, I keep saying students, because a lot of them were his students because he's in Martin Luther King so long, but not just his students, community kids that would get in trouble. And sometimes they really were innocent. And, a lot of parents would ask Daddy if he can help them get your child out of incarceration. And then also, believe it or not, there was police brutality back then in '72, really bad. And our black kids were getting it then too. So Dad would actually go to city council and, tell them about what the police has done to such and such, and not just the kids, even adults too. And he would go to and report it to the city council. So, and I guess because the city council is the city police already. I know he definitely helped a lot of people. Then how many? He found Martin Luther King Park. Found that too. J Street Park. He was active in getting, he was successful in getting signal lights at 7 different locations. There's one right there on Martin Luther King. Dad got that signal light. And then there's a lot of them. There's 7. He's effective in getting the street name from Nebraska to Martin Luther King Drive, Artesia all the way up to Pecan Valley. It was Artesia to Pecan Valley, and he was active in getting that changed to just Pecan Valley all the way up. And then also the Martin Luther King, like once you go to the bridge, at first the people didn't want to change Lloyd Road to Martin Luther King. They came out and they did not want it changed, so they went on ahead and just named the street, Martin Luther King, all the way up till you went over the bridge. Then it was still called Lloyd Road, all the way down because they said St. Benedict's is right there. Okay, but then after that was done, then he started going to the city council, and he had to get signatures to that area, that small little block that was still called Lloyd Road, where he went back and talked to some of the people and the city council. They went and changed that. So now it's Martin Luther King all the way to W.W. White. Now, once you cross W. White, then it goes back to Lloyd Road because, the church is on the street and they didn't want to change it. But, I brought his resume. Because I can't even I remember everything Dad has done. So, you know what else? And he did build the bridge on Rice Road. I mean, he would drive the machines and everything. He did help build. Yeah, yes, yeah. And then there was, and before there was some homes right there by the creek before they built the bridge, and those houses were actually flooded out, and those people were just dealing with that. So Dad kept activating for the city to buy their property so that they can have somewhere else to go and live. And at first the city refused, but then they finally gave in. He did not stop, So, and then when they were in the process of building a bridge, people come along and they were still, because the equipment would still be there, the big tractor trays on. And so then Dad said, well, he goes, I'll be security. So he would sit there, he would go back with the German Shepherd. And he just sit in his truck and watch all the, the equipment. But yeah, he actually built that bridge, help build the bridge. And of course, then that's when all of a sudden, he finds out, because it was Rice Road Bridge, and he finds out this other council named it after somebody she knew, and that's why that's called Eugene Nance. And the Dad wrote a letter, he says, in all due respect, may I ask you, who is Eugene Nance? And then once they built the bridge, they didn't build it where it was safe. So during the ceremony, he was out there with a protest sign and of course some other people, because it wasn't safe. Because when you first turn to go to F Street, the when you enter and exit was the same block. Well, that was causing accidents. So now, if you go that way, you'll see where there's 2 streets. So you can go, one way and come out the other way now. So. And he was going to the city council a lot, but they were pretty much giving him what he wanted, and if they didn't, he kept going until they did. You know, so
Did he feel that he had any resistance, though, from non-Black Americans or African Americans, maybe?
well,
Because now, of course, we're talking, he's come from the 50s with some resistance, but as he came closer to the time of now that we're in, and I know he passed away in what year?
he passed June 9th, 2011.
Okay, so up to about that time, June 9th, 2011, did he tell you of any stories that he felt there was still some segregation in San Antonio, or felt like there would be in another way, maybe not literally, but he felt that there was some resistance?
Yes, I know he wrote Booker T. No, wait, not Booker T. Washington. He wrote J. Edgar Hoover a letter about the violence here in the city, and the mayor somehow got hold of the letter, and he told him that we're going to, like when we commit some kind of crime or whatever, we're going to do the time, and that he doesn't need to be writing J. Edgar Hoover and all this. I have that too. He got resistant, but he still wrote him. He wrote J. Edgar Hoover another letter after that. He still did it. And then sometimes, like one time when they were soliciting for the Martin Luther King statue and they would ask for money, well, one time this white guy, he spit in the can instead of putting money in. And then there were those that pretty much worked against him. You know, believe it or not, when you're in a position that he's in, everybody is not your friends. Everybody is not going to support you. You're not. And you'll find that they will work against you almost quicker. Some people work against you quicker than for you. Because when they did take the march from Diddy, you know, he just kind of thought, we did too, that he would have some support. They were very happy to go ahead and just get on this commission and like, look at me now, I'm the one that's, you know, so yeah, I learned from that, did too, you know. And the thing about that wasn't even about money. After I retired, I substituted at Sam Houston High School one time, and I asked the students, I said, I said, I'll give $5 to whoever can tell me who started the first Martin Luther King March here in the San Antonio, Texas. Well, one of our kids says, Stephen F. Austin. Okay, well, see, think about it. When they took everything from there's the history. Kids have no idea. They don't even know the history. And some of them have history here from what they did, because Dad would take his students on the bridge with their notebooks, and they would measure, and because, you know, the bridge right there, Martin Luther King. And he would take them on the bridge and let them help build that bridge and see, you know, defectiveness or whatever. And I have pictures of that. I mean, they have history here, but they don't even know, and some of them are grown now. Now, there's some that are grown, they remember. They say, oh, I know Reverend Callies started that much, and he used to take me on that bridge, and he paddled me when I did wrong. But anyway, so, but now the kids, they have no idea, because when they took everything from there, they took history. They took Dad's legacy. They took it. So the kids now have no idea. It's just Stephen F. Austin, you know, and right now they don't even know, you know. But that's the sad part about it. But to me, my personal opinion is, I don't know. My personal opinion is city too, because they saw money. I mean, look how much revenue this march brings in. But with Dad, it wasn't even about money. It wasn't even about him. It was about everybody. It was about the legacy of Martin Luther King. It was about, he cared, you know. It was about East Side improvements. I mean, he hadn't even thought anything about money. And then some of people that he did bring in to participate in the march and everything, still wasn't about money, you know. But so, I don't know. It's sad.
If you were here today and we were interviewing him, what lasting thing do you think he would say or want history, those who are watching this video, listening to the video in the future, what would he really want them to know about him?
You know, do you know that Dad actually wanted his name on the bridge? He wanted his name on something. He wanted his legacy to be, he wanted people to know his legacy because his legacy is so positive, it's Christian, it's educational, and he was an excellent role model for our men, you know, and our women too, and our adults and our children and everybody. And he wanted that. But he would say, don't stop. If you believe in something and you know it's right, don't stop believing. Don't get discouraged. Just go ahead and whatever it is that you're believing in, that you're activating for, that you know is right, and it's for the good, continue until you're successful. But you got to do it with the Lord on your side. You have to have the Lord with you in everything you do. Because if you don't, you're not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Be peaceful, nonviolent. He never believed in, like Dr. Martin Luther King, you know, never in a violent way. And he was never a violent man. And never promoted it either. He thought when he would see something that was, you know, as I say, was negative, he would try to find a positive way to approach it. Like when he would see the students, the kids playing at all times of the night in the street, and sometimes they would fight, and he thought about, you know, they need jobs. So, you know, he would handle that with something positive. He would say that he just, you know, that he loves you. You know, and he was also a family man. And he and my mom were married probably 40 years, I guess. And he always says, he always had one woman. And that was it. You know, so, and to read your Bible, stay encouraged, and, you know, just try to do the right thing. That's what he was saying. Yeah.
A great legacy in his children, too. And grandchildren, I'm assuming.
Grandchildren, he has 5.
5 grandchildren.
Yes. Yes. You know, sometimes, one reason I retired, believe it or not, one reason I retired was I just felt like I had a calling from God. You know, I felt like I had a spiritual calling from God to actually carry on my dad's legacy or to bring awareness to his legacy, you know? I just had that feeling. And it was just like bothering me, you know? It was like I couldn't even, it just bothered me. Something was, and I just kept thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. It was nagging at me. And one day I was in a meeting, and one of the coaches were talking about retiring, and I was listening. And I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. So when I got back to school the next day, I went to my principal's office and I said, Ms. Diaz, I'm gonna go ahead and retire this year. She says, what? Oh my God, what? Okay, Ms. Coach Dunlap, I'm happy for you, but then why? And I said, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. I think it's time. But you know, and then after I did, I realized that's why I was doing it. Well, actually, after I told her that, I realized that was one of the reasons why, you know, because if not, I mean, everything would just be in vain. I mean, all of this, and like you mentioned, what do we have shown with Dad's name on it? Nothing. And you know, many people have told me, you know, if his name was on something, some of these kids, they wouldn't even act out. They would have a role model to follow after. You know, because right now, yes, we have Dr. Martin Luther King, but then there's one here in San Antonio. And sometimes when you realize you have one right here, close to home, You know, because even the adults that he did make a difference in their life, they'll say, oh, you know, I know Reverend Kells, I know your father, he did this for me, oh yeah, and this and that, and he was the one that started that march, and I know he started that march, and, you know, and we used to march, and they had a purpose why they marched, and it wasn't for money, they had a purpose, and so, you know, so I really think that's it, and I've been very happy with my retirement, because I really feel that's one of the reasons. Even though, you know, when Dad was sick, you know, because after they took his name down, well, I mean, he really couldn't even speak anymore. Then he couldn't even walk anymore, you know, and he spoke all those years. But to just to see your name nationwide, and I believe it was nationwide, but I know definitely local, just to see your name and everything that you've worked for and stuff, just taken down. And there's these trucks, and the worst part about it was, before they took the name down, they had the trucks parked right there. Well, Dad lives, and Mom lived right around the corner from the bridge. So, you know, and then there's the city trucks just there, waiting to take his name down. So, you know, so, and for what reason? Amazing. Yes, she has.
Well, we're very happy that you brought documents in that we can scan. That's going to really help tie all of this together as well.
Okay.
So we appreciate you and your family doing this for us. Thank you.
Well, I'm so glad that y'all did, because sometimes when I, you know, just like if I talk to, like, just say, like, councilman or something, everybody's just, it's all political. And just like that, am I still on tape? Okay, but anyway.
I wanted to get you to, since it's such a special thing that you were saying, the naming of the Freedom Bridge. Will you restate that again?
The new, Aura A. Callies Senior Freedom Bridge.
I wanted you to say why it was called Freedom.
Oh, okay. It was called Freedom because you had the freedom to get to the other side of the city, because before it was blocked. There was a creek, there's Salado Creek was right there, and you could not cross Salado Creek. It was blocked. So you had to go around to get to school if you're walking down Rice Road, and if it flooded, you couldn't even go down Rice Road. You had to go down on Rigsby, which is 5 miles out the way, okay? EMS couldn't get through to the other side, so if there was emergency on either side, if you're coming from W. White Road, you couldn't just get straight to the San Nebraska Street. You had to go around Rice Road. So they got there later. That sometimes is a matter of life and death, okay? You couldn't even walk to the other side of the city, either side of the city. You just couldn't get through, it was blocked. And so Dad had the city, after he let them have his land that was given to him by a senior Anglo couple, he allowed the city to build a bridge so that you could have the freedom to get across and safely across without catastrophe, without falling over into the creek, okay? And then he continued to activate for that bridge until it was safe. That's why there are signal lights right there. The rails are higher than they were so that you can have the freedom to freely get across to the other side.
Did your dad talk about naming it this?
Yes, and there was also a ceremony, and he explained why it was called Freedom. Everybody knew why it was called Freedom, I thought. Yeah, why it was called Freedom. And it was just, yes, they understood.
Do
We
you
thought
have
it.
some documents that you wanted to just briefly talk about in your?
That I haven't? Okay, well, let's see. Well, speaking of the Freedom Bridge, well, this is one, R.A. Callies Senior Honor Bridge Naming Honor and Bridge Naming Ceremony. There we are.
Okay, now,
Yes.
since I live here in San Antonio and I experienced it, did you ever attend any of those schools that needed to be reached on the other side?
Yes, Jeff Davis.
You did, okay, because So did I.
That's, you know, and that was another reason he mentioned you can get to Jeff Davis,
Exactly.
yeah,
That's what I wanted you to talk about.
Gates,
Yes.
Dory Miller,
Right.
yeah, that's right, and he mentioned Saint Benedict, Sam Houston.
Can you talk a little bit about the boundary line that kind of affected that? Because the current school, Martin Luther King Middle School, was named Riley at the time that that bridge was not there.
Yes.
And there were children who lived in that neighborhood that did not go to Riley, currently Martin Luther King. They had to go through that area of the creek to get to a school that they had been
Yes.
directed to.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, yes, there were students that lived on, let's say, the other side of W. White Road. For example, Jeff Davis, Gates, and they had to be redirected all the way around. And if it was a flood, they had to go all the way to Rixby. Okay, Dory Miller, and then Sam Houston was the highest. There were kids that lived on the other side that were supposed to go to, that went to Sam Houston, and they were walking to school at that time. A lot of them were walking to school. And of course, they would end up being late for school because of the flood, or because of the fact that they had to go around. And if, once again, if it was flooding, they had to go 5 miles out the way. Okay, so yeah, and let's see, Sam Houston. There was Sam Houston High School that was affected. The students were affected. Gates, Jeff Davis, of course, Raleigh at the time, Martin Luther King, and Saint Benedict's were affected, and that include with the emergency units too. Those areas, the community. It took EMS longer to get to them because because of the Salado Creek right there, because it was blocked, you know. So that's why they had saw a necessity for a bridge right there, for those reasons in particular.
And that was the first bridge, the one on Lord Road.
The first one
Right.
was, actually, the first bridge was Rice Road, because there was a small little bridge there, and it would flood all the time. So he went to the city, and the city put a little bit of a bridge that was a little higher. It still flooded over that. Then he just kept going, and finally, the city built a much larger bridge, which is one that's there now. But Salado Creek on Martin Luther King, you could not get through, okay? And actually, he did start working on that in '68. You know, now, the city council at the time were mainly white, and there were resistance a lot with that. That's why he had to keep going and continue to go and continue to write and continue to go. That's why, yeah, speaking of resistance, you know. And now one of them complained one time that every time he looks up, Reverend Callies is back in City Hall. Well, yeah, you know, and that's why he also had signal lights right there at the intersection of the Freedom Bridge, because there were accidents, because they put the bridge there, but then there were the intersections, and people just coming out where they were getting hit, and then there was the park that he also found. So, you know, so he had activate and keep going to City Hall, and he had his youth conference for community progress with him all the time. And there was a lady named Sister Duncan that was always with Dad, and then there were others too that were part of his community, youth leadership conference for community progress. And a lot of times it did consist of the youth, you know. So yeah, that's pretty much.
I want to understand the actual construction. You saying your dad actually designed, and
Yes, he did.
what was his training, and how much of that was he allowed to do? And do you
He
know?
presented it to the city, and they used it. his training when he was agriculture and industrial art, and he taught math too, and history. So he knew how to draw blueprints, he knew how to draw everything. I mean, he built 2 churches, our house, his mother's house, and he drew up the blueprints for the Rice Road Bridge. I started to bring that, I had it in my hand last night. The Freedom Bridge. He designed the signs, the measurements of the letters, and the color.
Do you know where any of these blueprints are?
Yeah,
You have
yes. I don't stay too far from him.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, yeah, he was very smart.
exactly.
He's a very smart man. He
Oh, wonderful.
and when they took the march, the Snap News was on it, and they were calling it crucifixion of Reverend Callies. Let's see. Like this says, the Reverend Callies built the Freedom Bridge with many hours of hard work and labor. He deserved a recognition. That's when they were trying to keep them from taking the sign down. It even has on here how he started the march, and it says, and you took it. It's on here.
I'm going to turn it around. So I can see that.
Just want to be able to get a picture. I can get a still of those things seen.
I am so glad you brought all
Oh,
those.
my goodness. You have a collection.
And see,
I
this
do
is
want you to tell
this
who
is a bigger
is in
picture.
this picture, too.
You want to hold that one up?
This is Reverend Callies.
And that's he and my mom here.
And tell me her name again.
Her name is Eunice E. Callies. And then, let's see.
Who is in this picture?
Oh.
I'll get you to name them.
Okay, and see, that's the bridge.
Are you able to
I got
remember?
a bigger picture. Yeah, that's me.
Are
and
you
my-
able to remember that if I hold it like this while you're
Yes.
telling?
Mm-hmm. I can see it
Okay.
in the back.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. This is me, Doris Callies Dunlap. This is my dad, Reverend R.A. Callies Sr. This is my mother, Eunice E. Callies. This is my sister, Yvette K. Wilson. And that's their son. Well, this is her husband, Andrew Wilson. And that's their son, the little baby, Solomon Wilson.
What year was that picture taken?
19,
That was just.
80, let's see,
the name
wait,
was still
1997. That was on the dedication. See, see where it says R.A. Callies Freedom?
See it.
Okay.
1997.
Can you get a little bit closer on that one?
I got a bigger picture.
Perfect. Yes. Let me get the sign in there. Okay.
One thing we can put a still in if we ever had to.
Okay, and then,
Can you think of any questions or anything you wanted to add?
this is the kids, see the Youth Leadership Conference for Community Progress, and he gave them jobs, and
In the red hats or let's see. Those are the students from the youth conference. We'll scan.
And then
but
one
Can
year-
you explain each level of this photo, starting at the top?
well, let's see. I don't know if you can see this. I have a bigger. That's during the unveiling. I don't know if you can see
Okay.
that, but you can. Okay.
Okay, so the unveiling is at the top of the Of the
Oh.
bridge? Of what? What is this?
That's the statue when they put it in.
Oh, okay, of
on
the
base.
MLK statue.
Mm-hmm.
And what is this here?
Oh, this is a family. We were at Luby's.
Okay. Okay, so
You
that's
can
the
keep, but
Unveiling.
let me see. This one here,
And,
this one's my. Let me see.
okay, you tell what it is and I'll hold it up. Oh, that is different. Some of it's different.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Now, I don't know if I have. Okay.
That's okay. The only thing that's different is here is missing. But just go through this in your own, and I'll hold this up.
Okay.
Okay, just tell me what each picture is.
Okay. All right. That's during the unveiling of the Martin Luther King statue, and so is this. That's the same.
And that's Reverend Callies speaking at that.
Yes.
Okay, with the arms open, that's Reverend Callies speaking at the dedication of the MLK
I mean,
statue.
you can have that really. That's why.
Now, it's
You didn't have that.
It's going to be good to scan the originals at some point.
Yeah,
So-
Thomas, just take the original off. I'm gonna show him another picture, and just take off the tape, and that way we can unfold it. But this is what
We don't want to damage them anymore.
let me show you.
Okay.
Okay. I was gonna show you. This one, Mister.
I guess all of this. What is this building that's being constructed here?
Oh, that's the church. He built his church.
Which
That
church is that?
That's Gethsemane Baptist Church.
With the red pickup in front is the construction of that. When you say that he built these churches, you're saying that he designed them?
No, both. Yes, that
He
too. And he
designed
built
them
it with his own hands.
And he actually did construction. Who worked with him?
And he's his own money. Because, especially this one here, they were just like me, daddy, mother, and maybe one other family, and the rest were kids. So there was no money coming to offering, you know what I mean? So he,
How did he fundraise for these?
for what?
For the building of a church?
He
For
took out loans. His brother in Victoria that was pretty wealthy, so even though he still charged daily interest.
which brother is
His
that?
name was Charlie. His name was Charlie Callies. He was Theodore Marshall used to spend the night with him, but he's one of the richest men at the time, Victoria. He was
In Victoria. What is Victoria?
Texas. He had a Callies and Loan company, Callies Real Estate and Loan, because he lived with the white man because there were 13 of them. So he went to live with this white lawyer, and the lawyer let him live in the basement and taught him. The white man was a lawyer, and he taught him, and a realtor, and he taught Uncle Charlie everything. So that's how Uncle Charlie learned everything. So then, he.
That sounds like quite a story there. We're going to have to start all over again. Okay. So this is one of the marches?
What happened was, 1993, Dad asked to lead the march. He had to keep asking to lead the march. Would you believe it? So finally, they kept telling him no. And then he petitioned the community, and then he took it to Nelson Wolff. Because Nelson Wolff wouldn't let him at first, and then Daddy took all these signatures, and then they let him in 1993. And then after that, he still kept asking to lead the march, and they kept telling him no. So, oh, and then Bill Clinton wrote him a letter too, but I did. But I want to show you. Oh, see now this is from Coretta Scott King. See, and you see the letter he wrote her.
You say he knew her personally?
I think so. Yeah, I know they kept in touch. Yes.
I can't do these justice, so they're going to be scanned But just tell about what
And
you
then this
know.
here
Please
is,
send me
oh, you want me to tell?
a copy.
Oh, he,
Okay.
he would do the, Dad would do the Martin Luther King programs at the school.
Uh-huh.
And so he asked Coretta Scott King if she can send him the copy of the I Have a Dream speech. It's right here. And she sent it, you can tell this. And it has the immortal, King's immortal, I Have a Dream. Okay.
On this one, this is important.
Oh,
this
Diddy.
is your father
Yes.
at the front.
Yes, that's Diddy in the Reverend Callies in the middle,
In the black suit.
in the black suit. And then that's me on the right side. Well, right here.
This is you in the
Yes.
white pantsuit. Oh, sweatpants. or whatever. This is Doris.
And what year is that again?
93.
93?
Yeah. That's when he petitioned to lead the march. Because, you know, the city, once they took the march, they didn't want to use him at all. So then he got signatures, and then he presented them to Nelson Wolff. So then Nelson Wolff changed his mind and said that Dad can go ahead and lead the march. That was the last time.
Now tell me about this. What was your role there at the front of the march? What were you doing?
Marching with my father.
Did he depend on you
Yes.
for assistance? Were you, how did
Always helping my father in it. We were very close, yes. And see, this is, you can keep this too. This is resume. And you see how many, all of those,
this will scan, but,
okay, yeah,
And
we
Doris,
won't
are you
worry.
the oldest of the siblings?
yes. I'm the oldest girl,
Oldest girl.
yes.
How did you offer support?
With preparations and, preparations.
Were
And,
you guys gonna do flyers or?
Yeah, well, he did the radio announcements, but a lot of times he would take, like, my mom would drive the van, and I would also, you know, with the youth, because I was over the youth choir, and I would talk to them and tell them, you know, we're gonna march, and then whatever you needed, just like, when we started the march that day, you know, I was in the front and making sure everybody was getting ready to start, make sure your orders. You know, just stuff like that. You know, Dad was a natural, so, you know, it wasn't like he wasn't like being a dictator and making it all about him, and he was nothing like that. You know, he was happy. People came out and marched. I mean, even they came out horses, and, you know, it was a march, and for everybody that wanted to march. And it was a happy occasion, and we were marching for our purpose, and so it was like that. So, you know, just being there, yeah?
I wish I could have met him. Sounds like a remarkable person.
Thank you.
And if he has a little bit of your spirit,
Yeah.
I can
You-
see it.
The legacy continues.
Well, let me
Okay.
show you real quick. Thomas, you want to give me that phone? I'm just going to show them real quick a little bit, and you could see it.
Still want
And I
the
could-
recording on?
Yeah, it can be
Still on?
on, just
Okay.
so we don't miss it unless there's something.
Sure.
Okay.
What are we doing?
I'm just going to show you a little bit of when he was honored with the sign,
Oh, okay.
so you can kind of see what kind of person he was.
Does it have the video of it?
Yeah, it's a video, and you see a little bit when they.
Did he sing? Did he have a singing voice?
Oh yeah.
Oh, my
End
goodness.
of the chambers, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
What did he sing?
Right.
Did he-
Any gospel song?
gospel
Oh,
songs? Did he have
In
a
the march?
recording?
God bless. You know what? When he was solicited, he would play the album from the
Let's go to
Selma.
item number 44. I want to thank Reverend Callie for being patient. We're going to go ahead and take care of your item now. If the clerk would read the caption on item number 44.
An ordinance renaming the Freedom Bridge on Martin Luther King to the R.A. Callies Senior Freedom Bridge for his relentless community efforts to improve living conditions for East Side residents, as requested by Councilwoman Doris Callies.
Thank you, Dr. Lott.
So, will Mr. Callies please come up? I want the council persons to see and know who you are. This is a man of great deal of integrity. He fought very hard to improve the conditions of the East Side, and most of us indebted to him for all the work he has done. I've known him since we were children in church together, and we ended up working in the same school together, and I've just known him to be really very impeccable in all the things that he attempts to do. And in reality, where we live on the East Side, 30 years ago, we had no access to the W.W. White Road except we go either by the Commerce Street or the Rigsby Avenue in order to get there. Because of this man's effort, the Freedom Bridge that we would like to name for him is the reason by which we can now cross over the Salada Creek and get to W.W. White Road. In addition to that, over on Rice Road, when our integration came about in the schools and our children had to go to school at the middle school that was on the other side of the creek, it was terrible for the children to have to go across that Salada Creek. This is the man who made it possible for them to have the sidewalk and the area to go across that street, and we're just terribly indebted to him. Also on New Brunswick Avenue, the corridor there where we have the statue of Martin Luther King, this is the man that we give credit to for doing that. And he and his group of people are the only people really that have been keeping up the actual maintenance of that property there without any funds from anybody. They're doing it on their own. So we are extremely grateful to you, Mr. Callies, and Reverend Callies, and we know that your wife is standing behind you and all that you do, and it's really my pleasure to say I'm very happy to be able to recommend that this sign be set up there at the Freedom Bridge with your name on top. Thank you so much. Would you like to say something, Mr. Callies? Reverend Callies?
Yes, I certainly would. I'm very grateful to you, Dr. Lott, and to all members in the Seminary Council. And I would just like to say I'm highly elated over what you are intending to do for me. In the process of going about doing the things that I was able to do, and thanks to the Lord, I didn't think so much about heroism as much as I did about the necessities that would be ours if we stepped out and done the things that need to be done, and which I tried to do. And along the way, I got a little help here and there that encouraged me on into getting streets named, to getting bridges built, and also in getting the statue. It was not easy, but at the same time, I had no regrets, and I felt good about what I was doing because I felt it should be done. And that was a necessity for streetlights, a necessity for sidewalks, a necessity to have something for Dr. Martin Luther King that would not pass away overnight. And so I felt good about all the things that I tried to do, and others helped me along the way here and there. All races joined in with funds and what have you. And so with that kind of incentive, I just kept on keeping on.
All right.
And my maid here, she was behind me all the way. And I know she don't want me to say this, but we've been married 40 years. And I like when it has to work. But 40 years, amen. And I thank the Lord for her right now.
All right. To Dr. Lott and Councilman, I'm not a big talker, but I certainly want to thank all of you for what you've done for my husband. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming down.
Yes, and thank you once again, Dr. Lott. We have a council. Thank you so kindly. Appreciate everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lott. We have a motion and a second.
I'm plugged in too.
Councilman Marbut would like to address you, Dr.
I won't go long here, but I just want to add the same thing. The last two times I've come across you, you've been over at the statue cleaning it up and cleaning around, and just to echo what Dr. Lott said, that the you know, all that park area and that boulevard that, you know, is because of you and many things. And you've not just helped the east side, you've helped all of San Antonio, and just want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. I have a motion by Dr. Lott, a second by Councilman Webster. All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
At this time, we'll go to the consent agenda. Are there any items that we need to...
Special to have that. Wonderful. Is that online or is that
No,
personal?
you know what's interesting? I was actually going to post this tomorrow. It's not online, but I was actually going to post it tomorrow.
Where is it? It's
It's
just
gonna,
a
I'm gonna open up a
family
website. It's going to be SAAACAM.
Oh, wonderful.
Open it up tomorrow and post it. Yes, because
Okay.
yeah.
History in itself, right there.
At the moment, though, that's a personal file, a personal recording.
No,
Where do you?
Oh, you
where
want it?
is
So
the-
is it a link?
Is-
it will be tomorrow.
No, but
Oh.
I was saying who recorded it and where has it been stored?
Oh, City Hall, and I went and got it.
Oh, okay, so City Hall does have.
Yes,
Oh,
but
wow.
yeah, I sure did because,
Okay.
and also I'm gonna post too the other one where you took down the city. But
we have-
so let me, yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been remarkable. Okay, I will turn it off now.
Okay.
And thank you again, Doris.